time for Fresh Outlook. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mia Toschi. We thank you for your company this week. We've got lots to talk about this week. Donald Sterling has become almost a household name in the last month, and we're going to be hearing more about him in the coming months. The LA Clippers owner is expected to launch a long legal battle with the NBA over his ownership of the team. Now, many people are betting the NBA will win this lawsuit, but is it a slam dunk? Here's more on that story.
I just don't think he is a good example for the children of Los Angeles.
These are the facts. I said the number one thing you need to do, which you haven't done, is apologize to everybody and myself.
I'm wrong. I caused the problem. I don't know how to correct it.
We welcome our panel of former White House aide Dee Dee Benkie, Logan Crawford, an anchor for Edru News, Thomas Lavecchia, business consultant, and via Skype, Kevin Reilly, former NFL player, announcer of the Philadelphia Eagles, and featured in the book Insightful Player. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and Tom and also Logan, so much for being here. Let's talk about these comments that we're hearing this week. He just doesn't seem to know when to stop. I think that's is that where the consensus right here? Let's take the temperature of the room. Dee Dee?
Yeah, I think he just kept digging. He was in a hole, and he's in a really deep hole now because on Anderson Cooper, he says, well, I don't know what to do. I'm wrong. Okay, you just admitted you were wrong when you're trying to defend yourself. But then he basically incriminates himself. So I just think he's in a tank. And plus, you know, this organization is private. There's nothing you can do about it. They're the law. Too bad.
And Logan, I mean, obviously, you know, you've been covering a lot of stories. What were your thoughts when you heard this week?
This week, he dug himself in deeper. There are two issues here. What he said privately and what he said publicly. What he said privately, although it's disgusting, it's his own business and should not be public fodder. But what he said publicly is clearly wrong, and that actually might be more actionable than what he said privately.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big case there. Tom, weighing in on this, what were your thoughts when you heard him?
Well, interesting enough is you think about from a branding perspective, so obviously at this point, he's done, right? He's going to lose his team. Financially, he's going to be okay, but he's going to take a really big hit. And then he basically has to come forth, own it, and then move on. It's that simple. The fact that he is saying what he's saying is just irreprehensible, and he just needs to move on.
And also, who's advising him? I want to talk about that in a few minutes. That's a pretty good question. I want to weigh in with Kevin Reilly now. And Kevin, you know, you played in the NFL. You're a professional football player. This must be so difficult for the team itself.
Well, I think it's difficult for the team, and it's difficult for the league. And as some of the comments that were already made, he dug a deeper hole for himself. It's one thing to say something offline. You wonder where he is getting his advice from. I mean, a guy like this should have handlers that can walk him through this crisis and, you know, getting past it. He should have apologized, try to work with the league, and put it behind him. Instead, he comes out and he attacks an icon in professional sports, Magic Johnson, which alienates him to an entire different crowd of people. So now he's in really, really deep. And now it looks like he's getting ready to battle them legally, when I think that the odds are against him winning. He's right now he's going to contest a $2.5 million loan. Well, that might be a battle in court, but they can get that from the TV revenue. So I don't know what he's doing, except maybe nobody's told the king he has no clothes.
Well, the question is, who is he being advised by at this point? They are talking about switching attorneys. The attorney for the LA Clippers will now not represent him, and so that's going to be a big key issue in this. But why isn't this guy smarter? I mean, it's a good question.
Well, he blew up his one gun in his arsenal. He had one, and everybody was starting to feel sorry for him because his girlfriend spied on him in his private home. And people didn't like that because people like to have their
let's say
privacy.
Criminal girlfriend.
Exactly. Who is in jail now? Where is she now? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, people sort of felt sorry for him. And then he goes on national TV and he blows that up. So he has no chance whatsoever now.
And I agree with you, Dee Dee, because he kind of was starting to apologize. But was the response from the NBA to try and get rid of him, do you think that was fair?
When his first statements that were made to a girlfriend on the telephone in what he thought was a private setting, you know, they were despicable and disgusting, no doubt. No doubt we've seen the inner soul of this man, and he's a racist and a bigot. He almost admits it. He did on Anderson Cooper's show. But the thing is, those were private conversations, and you should be able to talk to your significant other, you should be able to talk to your significant other, and talk about anything without worrying about it impacting the way you make your livelihood. Let's say I hate Martians, and I talk to my girlfriend about Martians. Well, I should be able to talk about Martians in the privacy of my own home, even though those views are despicable to people and abhorrent.
Absolutely.
Those are privately held views.
Well, and I think that's going to bring up a big point when this goes to court. Absolutely. Tom, any other thoughts on this?
Well, he's in a position where he owns a basketball team which he makes money and prospers off of people of different ethnicities. And the fact that he feels that way, whether it be personally or professionally, is just disgusting. From a business standpoint, I have clients that sometimes get themselves in hot water, he's handling it totally incorrectly. Again, he should just apologize, move on, and
stay off the air.
Exactly, and it's pretty
He
sad.
could have said, "Hey, I was drunk. I don't know. I don't remember saying it." I mean, there are a million things he could have done, but then he goes on. He confirms that that's how he feels.
That's how he feels.
And then he
That's
puts
what
it
it
on
comes down
national
to.
television.
And they were also
There we
saying
go.
that there was a possibility that he was senile as well.
Well, his
and he had
ex-wife was
cancer.
saying that, or his wife with whom
There were a
he's
million things he
estranged.
could have
Yeah.
said because people did not like the fact that he was taped without his knowledge in his own home. But he blew it out.
He is not looking for a way out. He believes in his beliefs. His belief system's way out there and way different than everybody else's, and he's defending himself.
Let's check in with Kevin right now.
You know,
Kevin,
I
do
hear
you
what
think
you
that
guys are saying, and I just can't believe that a guy that has this kind of money, he should have had a public relations firm who does damage control come in and feed him the right things to say and get him out of this. Except it almost sounds like he couldn't help himself what his true beliefs were. You know, he's missing that filter between his brain and his mouth where you need to filter this as a businessman. And I think a lot of it has to do with somebody this rich, you know, constantly getting yes men behind him, telling him he's right. And again, you know, the emperor has no clothes here. He really believes deep in his heart what he's saying now. And he's just dug himself such a terrible hole that I don't think he'll ever get out of it.
Well, Kevin, I got another question for you. Now, do you think Sterling is an anomaly of the league, or do you think he just got caught?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kevin. Did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
That's
yeah,
okay.
Listen, I think that you would find diversity in those thought patterns. I think there are guys that think like him that would never say it because they're smarter. They do have the filter. And then I think you've got some fantastic owners who, you know, continue to try to make not only their players better. You know, I look at a guy like Mark Cuban. He gets it. He gets the fan base. He gets the diversity. He gets out of control once in a while, but it's a passion that people understand. And this is a guy right here that is just an old crotchety owner who's dead set in some of his beliefs and really feels somebody must be reinforcing him. That's all I can think. An old friend or buddies, but there's probably some people that say, I feel the same way you do, and they're reinforcing his thought process, and then he's getting out there and explaining it. It's just crazy.
Well, it's a little bit irresponsible, and I want to weigh in on this as well, because, you know, there's probably quite a few people that are pretty mad at him. And, you know, there could be any attack or anything like that. So why isn't somebody at least protecting him?
I think his attorney's probably pushing it because the attorneys will make a boatload of money going to court when he has no chance. I mean, if his attorneys were real attorneys or if they were honest ones, they'd say, okay, it's the NBA. That's a private entity. It's not a government entity. So he has no leg to stand on. I mean, that's the law. Forget it.
I'm not defending him. He's despicable and gross, so let me put that out there. But you don't think that a private conversation that's used to find someone and ban them from life?
The NBA cannot afford that because you've got a racist running a team.
I agree.
And, you know,
we agree he's a racist, but I don't know.
No, but it's about the money.
No, it's about league. It's about
it's about the money now.
And the money only matters if they can win in the legal system.
No, the money matters because you'll have all the donors and all the sponsors pull out, and there's absolutely no way that he can stay the owner. It's just not going to happen with the NBA. They'll lose money.
Well, the question is, why did it take...
They wanted to see him penalized, and now he's going to fight that penalty, and it doesn't make any sense. He's really tilting at windmills here because they can take that $2.5 million directly off his TV revenue and still win the ball game. They have control of that. Why is he making this an issue? He can't help himself, but only dig himself deeper into this whole fiasco by keeping his name out there.
Well, Kevin, you played, you're a professional football player, or were, I should say. What advice would you have for the players right now?
Well, if you talk about the players in the league or the players on his team, the players on his team are really, caught in a difficult situation. Playoffs, the intensity of that, this whole controversy swirling about it, they have got to stand united as a team and come to some conclusion like, we're not going to let the owner or the outside world break us right now. And that's the most important thing that the coach has to do, which I think he's doing a great job trying to keep these guys together in the middle of this hailstorm.
Absolutely. And Dee Dee, you're a big basketball fan, I know, but it's the same thing. I mean, just to see these guys go through this and the revenues coming out and all the sponsors, I actually feel really bad for the team right now. I'm almost rooting for him, Dee Dee, but I didn't want to tell you that.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm for the Pacers, but you want the Clippers. They are in a tough position. And all the teams in the NBA, this is a dark cloud over the whole deal, and we all know that this guy just needs to go. I think everybody wants him to go.
Everybody wants him to go, and absolutely the correct response is that the sponsors pull away and the fans boycott the game and the players refuse to play for him because I'm not going to work for a bigot. That's the correct response.
Well, they're under contract as well.
Well, I would like to see that pressed in court, whether it's a breach of contract because they refuse to work for a man who has basically talked to them about them in slave terms.
I totally understand that, and I agree to a certain extent, but that would set a precedent moving forward if, let's just say, a player didn't like the owner. Could they just
it's no more than not liking. I mean, if you don't like for a reason, there has to be a good, solid reason for that. And I think working for someone you perceive as a bigot, saying, the heck with my contract, I'm not working for you.
But the interesting people are the other owners. It's the other owners who really should be stepping up and saying, this guy needs to go. And maybe some of them do have skeletons in their closet where they've said things that they weren't really proud of. So who knows? It's kind of interesting.
I think that's an interesting point that none of the owners have really stepped up and verbalized
That's what I thought.
where they have been on this. And I got to believe, and this is a terrible thing to accuse them of, but I got to believe that there's some collusion on their part to keep a gag order and to keep it under wraps. Nobody say anything. 29 other owners don't have an opinion on this. Hard to believe, folks.
Agreed.
Well, Kevin, we just want to get one last question with you. Since you were with the NFL, we obviously saw the news this week with the first openly gay player. Just your quick thoughts on that.
Well, I really believe that this guy is Sam's a very courageous guy coming out. It's amazing that this hasn't happened before. Hey, I played in the 70s, and I know I played for 3 teams, and I know that there were guys on 1 or 2 of those teams that were gay that just didn't have, the courage, and it wasn't the timing to come out at that time. Sam has just made an incredibly courageous step here. I have a gay brother. I understand this scenario. However, I just saw where he canceled, and I think he's getting some good advice. Maybe Sterling ought to get his advisors. He was going to have a reality show with Oprah, and that just got canceled. And I believe that was a smart thing to do. He needs to prove himself and as a football player right now and take tiny steps. He doesn't need to throw his, being gay out there in front of everybody right now before he proves himself as an NFL football player. If he takes some baby steps now, he's going to be known as an icebreaker for professional sports.
And Kevin, we also want to thank you for being on the show, featured in the book Insightful Player. Thank you so much, and the voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. We appreciate your insights today. Don't go away, everyone. We're going to take a look into the coal mining disaster in Turkey when we come back from this quick break.